This is the Vegas Huddle with Mike Davis.
Welcome inside the Vegas Huddle. I'm your host, Mike Davis. So exciting to have somebody in our studio, inside the den today, who's just a great guy in the community, a great NBA veteran. He's played 14 years in the league. I mean, we're talking Raptors, Celtics, Sixers. I mean, so many great organizations, the Pistons, and now Amir Johnson is doing so many great things here in our community. Amir, it's great to have you here in the studio. You know, before we get into all the community stuff you're doing, to me, as it's NBA playoff time, I'm always thinking, you know, why is the NBA playoffs a totally different sport during the playoffs than the regular season? What is it about the mindset, the mentality that just makes the game that different?
Well, the goal is for every team is championship. And when you put these great teams together, I'm pretty sure owners and everybody are just invested in winning the championship. Of course, you got to go through a great regular season, but when the playoffs come, it's just a different level. And everybody's locked in. There might be some players that are on a bigger level than other players, but that player just carries their others on. And it's just a different level of play, man. You know, I've seen it first foremost, like players like Bron and D. Wade and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, man, they play just at a different level during the playoffs.
So is it something where it's a distinct active choice in their mind? Like Jimmy Butler, not that he's not trying during the regular season, it's just like he's going to preserve some energy and kick it up to like 11 out of 10 when it's playoff time, because that's just how it is.
I mean, when you just get closer to the pot of gold, man, you're just going to give it, you know, everything you got, even if you're hurt. You know, I mean, some players get hurt, and during the regular season they might, you know, take a couple days and rest. But with the playoffs, like, you got to win every game, or it's like, you know, win or go home. So no matter any injury, man, these players are going out and giving it full force. And then once they win the championship, and then they can relax. So their mindset just completely changes during the playoffs.
It's an interesting thing, I think, your career, because let's start from the beginning. You're growing up in Los Angeles, and, you know, you're so gifted that you're, you know, actually Mr. California with basketball. You're, you know, taking Westchester High School to a state title. You know, and I know you had a little bit of movement in your early career. You know, you moved different high schools, all that kind of stuff. But, you know, you're a McDonald's All-American. You're Mr. California. And when you decide not to go to Louisville and go straight to the league, I mean, what was the choice there? How did you come to that decision?
Dream. A dream come true, man. I remember in the 5th grade, you know, we had to write, you know, what we're going to be for when you grow up. And I wrote, I'm going to be an NBA player, man, and it was just my lifelong dream. I knew I loved the sport and I was good, and when I went and played, people around me or people that see me, like, they started saying, like, okay, this kid has a chance to make it, and that just gave me so much more confidence, and I can just continue working on my games. I was put with the right people, you know, just to expand my game, and I can just consider it a blessing, you know, to come out of high school and become a pro. Again, you know, kudos to my parents, you know, for helping me out, putting me in camps and helping me out, you know, through my young career. And I was able to do it. I wasn't really old enough to even sign my contract. Had a discussion, you know, with my mom. I was already set to go to Louisville, and her thing was, as long as you follow up on college, you know, do online classes and get done what you want to do, you know what I mean, I'll be able to sign this contract for you and get drafted. And she was able to make my dream come true, and the rest is history.
It's amazing, and here is history. You were talking to me off camera a little bit. This could be a Jeopardy question in the future. Amir Johnson, Amir Johnson is the last player in NBA history to be drafted straight from high school.
Great Jeopardy question. I just hope I'm on there one time. The last player I was drafted, 2nd round, number 56. I was at my auntie's house in Bellflower, California. House full of family, and she had leather couches. Man, I'm over sweating, stuck to her couch, just watching the whole draft. And I got a call from Larry Brown. Larry Brown was the head Detroit Pistons coach. And
they had just won the NBA title, too.
They won 2004, and I was a Laker fan, being from California, too. And, you know, I mean, the whole Detroit battle with the Lakers and all that, I was just like, what? And long story short, Larry Brown had called me and he was like, "We're going to draft you second round, man." And I was like, "What?" My name goes across the screen. They didn't announce it. I had the commercial across the screen name, and when they seen it, everybody in my family that was in that house went crazy, and I was just smiling. Everybody else was in tears of joy, and I was able to go to the championship, Detroit Pistons, which was perfect for me.
And in that moment at 56, you're not even, it's not like, I went a little low, I went second round. You're just happy in that moment.
Happy to be there, man. I knew I was a hard worker, great listener. Anybody that told me the right things and told me what to do, I did it full force. I knew for myself mentally I was just going to be okay, and all I needed was just an opportunity, and again, a dream come true for me.
And let's break this down because you really are such a hard worker. But when you go to that Pistons team, yes, Larry Brown's there and he had, a historic career. But let's think about who was on that team. I mean, Chauncey Billups, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Rip Hamilton, all these guys. But here's what's fascinating to me, and I'm always curious as a non-athlete, like Darko Milicic, right?
Oh, Darko.
I remember when he's drafted over Carmelo, he's drafted over Dwayne Wade, he's drafted over all these guys, and that was a power forward, kind of like you. Why is he drafted top 5 and can't figure out the game, and someone like you who's a second round pick ends up having a 14-year career in the NBA where you're plugging and playing for big time franchises that are in the playoffs consistently? Why could you figure it out and he couldn't?
Question, man. The NBA is 90% mental. You get players from all around the world, and for Darko was a great player, very skilled, very talented, and definitely that's where he got drafted over everybody, because he was a beast. He was a beast, but the mental part in the NBA could be tough for a few players, man. Just from being where he is, leaving home, coming to America, playing on a team in Detroit. Detroit, hard-nosed Motor City. It's just a mental hump that you really just gotta lock in once you get in the NBA. Your job is not done once you get drafted. Now you just got to continue putting in the constant work of being the best player that you can be.
And you put in so much work. You go to that Pistons team, they put you down to the D League a couple times. You had to really struggle and, embrace the struggle, and you did. And the amount of contracts you signed after that to just have this prolonged career is an amazing thing. But I'm curious, like, as an NBA guy, can a Jimmy Butler, can these guys just sniff off a Darko Milicic, like, this guy just doesn't care, right? Like, at a certain point, to me as a fan, it comes down to caring. Like, that's why people love Jimmy Butler and Damian Lillard so much, because these guys, it means a lot to them. You could see it on their face. Darko, it just doesn't look like it means that much to him. Am I right or am I wrong?
I agree. I think it's really just a mindset. I don't think they necessarily not care. I think they would just, the way they came into the league, they probably just stuck with the same routines and all that. Like, when you come to the NBA, sometimes you just got to change your routine. You might have to adjust to a certain team. You might have been the top player where you've been playing, but now you got great players like, Curry and KD, which they're like Bron. These guys are superstars, so you might have to adjust. You might have to not have the ball sometimes and just be a cutter. Like, you really have to, sometimes young players don't know, like, they come from high school or college and be these star players, but when you get to the NBA, they already have their main star players, and now you have to adjust. Like, okay, what could I do with this team to be effective or be the greatest player, cutter or whatever, screen setter that I can be. And so some players don't really get that, and they don't really adjust. They just think, okay, I got to come in and just, throw up 50 shots and try to, be a superstar, which is not the case. You have to learn your team. You got to listen to these coaches, which I did, to kind of help you get over that hump. And then maybe when these players are out of that position, you can become more of a threat or more of a scorer. And it's just a mental part of any player, man. And sometimes they can't get out of these stages where they just, okay, I got my mind made up. Like, if I don't get 10 shots,
Right.
why do I want to play for this team? Like, they're not
And what was it about your mentality that, was it how your parents raised you? Was it how did you have such a good sponge-like attitude about everything? Like, because you were always a great teammate, always a guy who was so talented, but you would take whatever role. I mean, you'd come off the bench for the Sixers, and all of a sudden you're having like a triple-double off the bench, and it was just, you meshed well with so many people.
Well, it definitely my parents, man. I grew up so humble, man. Mom always taught me you can't really go through life with two catcher's mitts. You always have to, pitch out something and give back. And grew up humble. So I did get in trouble at some times, but then again, if I made a mistake, I always, listen and never did it again. And once I got to the Pistons, I was just basically an open book. It was my dream. It was my goal.
Yeah.
I was just happy to be there, and I was so lucky to come with a championship team. I think that really helped my career. So those guys were already together when I went there. They ate out together, not even on the road when they were in town. They went out together. They did everything together as a team. I'm not talking about just like the starting five. I'm talking about the whole team.
Wow.
Did everything, and they would call everybody. They sent everybody text messages like, "Oh, we're going to watch the game over here at Rip's house or Chauncey's house." And that's what I saw when I came to the league, and I'm like, okay, this is really a family, which was awesome for me because I was a family guy that listened to my parents and did everything right. So that helped me throughout my career, and I was able to last so long just because I started with a bunch of vets. And I think back in the NBA, guys were like 30 and up. Back in the NBA, now the NBA is getting younger and younger and younger, but I really had help from everybody on that team, and I just had great vets that steered me in the wrong direction. If I went left, they're like, nah, young fella, you got to come back right. This is not the way to do this. You should stay after and get some shots up. You should come early. You should go get the team donuts. All this stuff was just embedded in me once I went to that team, and I'm like, okay, this is how the NBA works, and I'm going to do it the best of my ability. And then the game kind of followed through after that.
And it's interesting because for you entering the league around 05, like for most big men, it's different today. We see Victor, Wembanyama.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's going to go number 1 overall, and he's like 7'3", and he's at mid-range, outside the arc, all this kind of stuff. But you were a big man at 6'9", who really had a great mid-range game, a great shot, all that stuff. So, I mean, developing that stuff, was that something in high school? Was that something that you developed throughout your years in the NBA? How did the whole, big man with the handles and the shooting ability develop for you?
Well, I've probably been in the NBA for maybe 3 different eras, where the big man, then the wing, the stretch 4, and then like guard play, pick and rolls. It's just adjusting. Again, like I was telling you, it's just constantly working on your skill level. As the league, changed throughout my career. When I first got in the league, I knew I was faster than most bigs because I came in probably like at 210. And then when I came in, you got guys like Shaq that's like 340 pounds, and you got guys like Ben Wallace. So my mind said, okay, I'm a center for, like, I can use my quickness against Shaq, even though I can't probably out physically push him out the paint. I had to run around in the whole circle to probably just get in front of him to kind of deny the pass for him even getting the ball.
Yeah.
And I just used the skill I had to the best of my ability, and that's what kind of got me to last a little long. Okay, this guy's quick. He can come set pick and rolls. He can roll. He can shoot floaters around the paint where these bigger guys, can't get to. And then it slowly developed into like stretch 4. Like, can you space the floor when Chauncey Billups or whoever's driving the paint and be able to knock down a shot or shoot a mid-range, which was like Tonio McDyke's game when I was with him back in the day. So it was just a lot of studying, seeing the game. And again, I had guys that just kind of helped me out, develop my game.
Who were some of the guys that really took you under their wing like the most? Who, if you recall?
I think Rasheed.
Rasheed
was awesome, man. Like, I know he has a niche of just getting all these texts in the league and doing all that, but he was definitely a great mentor. Philly guy.
Gratz High School.
Had probably one of the best touches shooting the ball, man.
Yeah.
You see his shot, he has it on his like signature shoe where he's shooting the ball, almost looked like 2 hands in the air. And
yeah, I remember that.
He kind of told me, he was just like, man, as long as you keep the ball high and your release point is high, then nobody's going to be able to stop you because you're tall, we're lengthy, and we have nice touch, as big men. So
he was like a Draymond before Draymond. He was scary, and he had It's so funny. As a little kid, I just remember the little things you remember. He had that little gray hair, like
The little
yep. The
That was
little like freckle of like gray hair in his head, and that just scared me even more about him.
man,
You know.
he was just a great vet, man. But I would say all the vets, like when I took from Ben Wallace, man, Ben Wallace, he was just like the muscle of the team.
Right.
This dude,
And he was undersized for a center.
He was undersized.
His afro was
he gave him a little bit more height, but this dude, man, would wrap headbands around us because his biceps were so big, man. And this dude would just sit there and just curl, lift, man, every day, man. He would even just lift before the game, and then just slide his little headband on his biceps, man. And I'm like, dude, don't you gotta shoot the ball? You know what I mean? He was like, nah, man, I'm just gonna catch lobs, run the floor, and block shots and play defense, man.
He's up there with like best rebounders. Him and Rodman.
Sure. And that's when he told me that. That's how I knew it's not about scoring the ball. Like, you can affect the game in so many different ways. Like he did. Like, he's a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Just off of what he did affecting the team, being Defensive Player of the Year, man. And there's so many parts of the game, like, especially these young players can do instead of like going out there and scoring 50 points.
And to me, that's what the makings of a championship team are. Like you tell me, but when we're in the playoffs and we see these teams that are constructed with role players, guys who have special qualities and, like you said, can impact the game in many different ways. To me, those are the telltale signs of a team that's going to win a championship or a team that's just not at that point, you know, and I think we've seen organizations try to build out their structures, like the Sixers. You know, they'd get Bellinini and they'd get Ilyasova, and they had you know, and they have all these guys that they're trying to round out an organization with. Do you think that's what makes? What are a couple things? One, if you had to pick the championship pedigrees, what are the things that really make a team stand out and win that chip?
Well, first off, you have to have. It all starts with your coach. You have to have a great coach.
And in the NBA, because I think there's a narrative that in the NBA coaching doesn't matter. Does it matter?
It does. It does. You have to establish a great coach, and you have to establish like the mindset at before the beginning of the season when you get these players. You got to have to establish the mindset of the coaches. You have to have great assistant coaches because, just say for instance, like if you establish like what I want out of these players, like okay, say like a coach wants his shirts tucked in on the court before practice. If you have one guy, the superstar, with his jersey untucked, they're going to be like Joel or whoever's not tucking in his shirt. Like, I thought the rules were, so you kind of get your players to kind of look at you funny and not kind of tend to listen to what you have to preach, when it comes on the court. So
that was the thing. Brett Brown wanted players with their shirt tucked in.
No, I'm just saying this for example, but you want to have great coaches to kind of have your players buy in to what they're preaching. So if you don't have that at the beginning, like, okay, if you tell me, like, okay, Amir, like, I strictly want you to make sure you set good screens or rebounding, for our team. Like, right. I just want you to focus on that. Okay, bet, I'm going to buy into that. Okay, another player, like, okay, you're going to be our scorer. You know what I mean? This you're going to be our main player. You're going to run through our offense. Not saying other players can score, but just to kind of get that in their mindset, like, okay, Joel or whoever is going to have to get the most touches because that's going to be, strictly ran through our offense. Like, you really have to establish players to buy into their role on the team. And I feel like once they buy in and see if it's working or they committed to it, I think that's what builds championship teams. Like, I know players necessarily are not going to like to hear that. Like, why does, XYZ gets to shoot the ball more than me.
Right.
Like, no, you're the best at just slashing. We need you to do that because it's all about winning at the end of the day. Once you win, everybody's happy. Everybody's going to get paid, once you're with a championship team, hence the Warriors because, they're a dynasty now. So if you can have a coach establish that at the beginning of the season, and I feel like that's when you get the flow, going into the playoffs. And okay, he's going to backdoor cut, and that's when you get the behind the back passes because somebody's going to cut behind you on that specific play.
Right. So. Or slash and kick and all that kind of stuff. So, to me, you've worked with a lot of coaches, Dwayne Casey, Flip Saunders, Brett Brown, but Brad Stevens is the guy that you think was the best. Why is that?
I think Brad Stevens was the best just as far as putting guys in the position to be successful. His game strategies, man, I feel like he studies the game. Like, I just personally, I think he just studies the game all day, every day, at night. and he'll come in and just break down a different team's offense and see what he's doing and kind of preach that into practice. Man, that's kind of like the best I've seen.
Wow.
I played for. I think what makes an all-around good coach is where you can do that, X's and O's, and actually know how to talk to your players, bring the best out of them. Some people only have X's and O's. Some people just knows how to be a motivator and talk.
Right.
But I haven't seen somebody that really pretty much has both. But then that's when your assistant coaches come in. Like some people, okay, I want to talk to assistant coach, which a lot of former players are.
Like Ime Udoka was an assistant with Sixers, Celtics.
They understand exactly what players are going through and their mindset, so that's where that come in. And once you have a great staff where you have a guy that can draw up X's and O's, a guy that you can talk to and motivate you, and guys that help, it all blends in and helps the championship team.
Okay, a few more things before we get into all the great community stuff. So, to me, growing up as an LA guy and as a Lakers fan, there's a really great picture of you and Kobe. And, growing up, he probably was your guy, I would think, right? Growing him and Shaq. To playing against Kobe, what was that like for you? I mean, at what point when you're in the NBA is it like, wow? I mean, I grew up watching some of these guys, and now I'm actually competing against them.
I was when I first seen Kobe, man, I was probably the first person I actually got starstruck when I seen it. He actually came to one of my high school games, man. I promise you, like he just walked in and like slow motion, and you're just looking like, man, that's Kobe Bryant, and being from LA, they preach Lakers everything. So it was like you go to the hood, you get Laker T-shirts and everything on the corner, and you see Laker everything. And with the dynasty and the championship, man, like and Kobe and Shaq were those guys. So it was like Kobe was just like our hero in LA. Just seeing him, win championships or making the city better. Of course, it was magic, of course, because you've seen in the hood, you got Magic Johnson theaters and him, and he did his thing. But my era was just when Kobe came to LA, and he was just kind of like the player like everybody wanted to be. The countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kobe. And that's what we saw. In school. It was constantly. We couldn't catch some of the other games. Going on in different states, but we always.
And then when you're on the court with him in the NBA, I mean,
I'm a competitor, man. I wanted to outwork him. Even though I was a fan, I was just like, I'm gonna try my best to not let Kobe get nothing. Hence my I know you remember Kobe when he had that Achilles tear.
Yes.
And his game back, we were playing against. I was with the Toronto Raptors, and his game back from the recovery from his Achilles game was a game against us. I can't remember the exact date, but I was watching like Sports Center, and it was like everything about Kobe, like his return, he's gonna come back, this and that. And I kind of took that personal. I'm like, doing your game, I'm gonna try to just do my best and not let it be all about you.
Didn't he drop 82 on the Raptors that game?
I wasn't with that team.
Okay.
I wasn't with that team, but he sure did. But that game, I had my career high.
Wow.
He came back, man. So it was like the cameras were all on me, and it was just like my family was there, and I was just like, yeah, you see what I did to Kobe. But again, like he was, I was just a big fan, growing up in LA and seeing Kobe come to my high school game and seeing him around LA, and it was awesome.
That's the best. Before we get into some community stuff, last question on just NBA things. I think there's so many guys that get drafted. They want to be like you. They want to have that career where it's like a 14, 15-year career, but they just, I think if somebody was listening right now, because I think it translates over business, entrepreneurship, all different things, and I think we can all take away insights from this and your mentality. What tips, if you had like 2 or 3 tips to give somebody, and it could just be the attitude, everything about, being somebody who can have that prolonged career and sustain a 15-year career in the NBA, because I think it's unheard of, really, from a second-round perspective. So tell me what those qualities would be if you had to give advice.
Well, I guess the first thing, if a young kid gets drafted and wants to stay in the NBA, they got to realize that they are a brand. Like, your name is everything. So you really can't be doing crazy stuff, because nowadays you have social media, you have a lot of things, a lot of outlets where people can see exactly what you're doing. So you want to do your best job to stay out of trouble. I know young kids do some knucklehead stuff all times, but you just want to do your best to kind of protect your brand at first. And then the second thing is, I feel like you have to, I guess I'm trying to think what somebody told me. You have to basically, I guess to be a part of a team, man, and to stay on a team,
Yeah.
I feel like you just have to have the mindset to, especially if you are a superstar player,
Yeah.
you just have to have the mindset to adjust at times. I mean, again, when I was talking about you might have been the man wherever you were, high school, you have to have that mindset, okay, I'm going to have to be a sponge and learn, steady film and learn everything what I can do to make this team better.
Yeah.
And I feel like every GM looks for that because, again, they already have their superstar players that are drafted before you. So when you get a new guy that comes in, they're going to be looking like, okay, how can you make this guy better that I already drafted? So they look for that. And I feel like that's going to make you last long because of other teams. Even though you might not be scoring a lot of points, other teams see that like, okay, he made Joel, he ran the floor so hard. He gave James Harden that wide open shot, like stuff like that.
Right.
That really matters in the league, man. So you just really have to humble yourself, even if you're a superstar guy that you came up with, and just really learns the ins and outs of the NBA if you want to last very long in this career. And then maybe later, 4 or 5 years later down, when these guys are retired, like Luka and KD and all those guys, then the next guy comes in, you can be that superstar guy, and then you can kind of help and teach that guy. So it's just a trickle effect when you just teaching these new players that coming in, like, okay, nah, you can't be the scorer, I'm the scorer. You got to cut, you got to set screens, and then
Gotcha.
next in line. So
That's a beautiful thing, and I think that outlook is what's really informing your help in the community here. So let's talk about all this great stuff you're doing. So first of all, you're the president of Keys. Which is an incredible thing. You can go to keys702.org for more. But tell us about that. So how are you shaping the community with Keys?
So I am a Vegas native. I've been living here for 10 years, and throughout my career, the NBA, I've always been a community guy. Again, I told you a story where you can't go through life, with two gloves. You got to pitch something back. And in Las Vegas, I'm developing a community center, and it's we pretty much promote education, health, and wellness to sports-minded individuals from ages 8 to 18. And inside the complex, we're definitely going to have a football field, basketball, state-of-the-art computer lab, auditorium, and everything I've pretty much been speaking about just on mentorship. And it's just been my mindset throughout my whole career, my life, and a goal to do something back in the community. And me living here in Vegas, why not do it here? This is the perfect place. This is a beautiful city. Again, I've been here for 10 years. My kids go to school here. My family's here. So
It's a beautiful thing, and you've always, throughout your career, you've been known for random acts of kindness and giving back. So this is just part of the makeup of who you are as a person. But the big thing is that there's going to be this great Lend a Hand Celebrity Gala happening in the summer, 31st of August to September 2nd. And that's going to be a really great initiative to drum up some funding because all the proceeds are going to go for this community complex for Keys. What is that event going to look like? I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So it's a celebrity gala, co-host with 3-time Pro Bowler Kasim Osgood. He's definitely a part of the team. And it's from August August 31st. August 31st from September 2nd. And it's just going to be a whole fundraiser. We have a golf tournament. We have an all-white social. And we have a gala and dinner that we're throwing for our sponsors and all that. So it's going to have celebrity guests. It's going to be fun. And this is just our fundraising program for our facility complex here in Las Vegas.
It's going to be a big thing. And to me, I think, imagine if when you were a kid in L.A., if there was a complex, a center like that, a haven where people can train, have camaraderie, community, and also have, the mentorship component. Because, I mean, somebody if I was a youngster and I had Amir Johnson or the equivalent for me, like a David Letterman,
Yeah.
mentor me when I was a youngster and have like that access and just to have the mindset like that you're talking about on this podcast. A young kid, that's so impressionable because when they hear it from me, it doesn't matter. When they hear it from you, that's when it matters.
Exactly. It definitely is key because when your parents saying they can constantly preach it to you,
doesn't matter.
If a LeBron comes in and it was like, oh my God,
right.
he told me I gotta eat vegetables and all that, and it just kind of clicks. And again, the mentorship again helped me throughout my whole life, and again, I always just want to pass and give that knowledge back down to the youth, and that's the main goal because I genuinely care. And again, I was 17, 18 going into like a grown man world in the NBA, and I just have the experience, man. The biggest thing you can teach anybody is just going through stuff in life and going through the experiences. And again, this facility is it's going to be state of the art. It's going to be in Henderson on Cactus in Bermuda. It's about 132,000 square foot.
Wow.
It's going to have everything you need. Even going to have like shuttles where we can actually pick up kids from school if their parents can't get there.
Wow.
I've pretty much been planning this my whole life, man. I had my nonprofit 2005, and I knew it was a goal. Like these, I would say, facilities and complexes and Boys and Girls Club. I feel like it really saved my life throughout my career.
Wow.
I was able to go to these facilities, and it was just like Disney World to me. They had basketball, they had football, they had foosball, they had arcade games, they had everything, and I'm just like, I don't believe it is, and it really helped me out. And again, I just want to pass everything down and give to the youth back here in Las Vegas.
It's a beautiful thing, and guys, you can go to key702.org to learn more. That, once again, let's just say it stands for Knowledge, Education, Youth, Sports. Knowledge, Education, Youth, Sports. So you can go to key702.org and make sure you check out for that Lend a Hand Celebrity Gala. I may even be there. I'm getting some word. I think that's going to happen. So I'm excited for that. Listen, that's August 31st through September 2nd, and we got to make sure you come back on. It's great to have a good, a successful NBA vet, but a guy who's just a good dude in our community, making a big impact with our youth. That's a big deal. So thank you so much, Amir.
Thank you, Mike.
It's great to have you here in our community. And guys, this is what the Vegas Huddle is all about. It's great athletes, people who are making a difference in our community, and it's just such a special thing. Long-form conversations, it's a great thing to hear and get the mindset, the mentality of what makes successful people. So make sure you listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network as well as on YouTube. Until next time, I'm your host from The Den, the Vegas Huddle, Mike Davis. I'll see you next time.